As a natural response, we seek solace in things that dull the pain, such as medicine or the words of wisdom from those around us, even though they may not fully comprehend our situation. We risk ignoring the source of pain if we give in to our natural inclination to avoid it. Instead of seeing suffering as a problem that needs fixing, what if it's a call to kindness, inquiry, and focus instead? It is only when we train ourselves to pay attention to our body that we become aware of pains we had previously disregarded. These pains aren't merely physical, they frequently reveal hidden emotional depths. We can learn to embrace the pain and discomfort as we go on this journey of self-discovery. Rather than trying to modify or repair things too quickly, we can achieve equilibrium by simply being here, without pushing ourselves to change or passing judgment. Expressing our emotions in this way, without striving for change, facilitates healing by bringing us into touch with our feelings. Phase 2, inner work, begins with this realization and moves on to the inner parent and inner child aspects of ourselves. Understanding the child is less important than reawakening the parent within. We learn emotional, mental, and physical self-care from our inner parent. Real, satisfying relationships can only be formed when we accept and welcome our inner parent, rather than looking to other people to solve our problems. End of section 4. The body's natural reaction to pain is to try to dull it or find an external source of relief. Medication or counsel from people who don't really get it are common substitutes for experiencing and being with the pain. By continuing this practice of dodging, we are unable to deal with the root of our suffering. On the other hand, realize that suffering is a call for caring support. Footnote: FM. Previously unnoticed physical discomforts become more apparent when we establish a connection with our breath and practice being in the here and now. Our consciousness expands as we become more attuned to our bodily, mental, and emotional experiences. Pain, such as aches and cramps, could be the only thing we notice at first. In the long run, though, as we train ourselves to be fully present, these bodily sensations may indicate more profound emotional unease. Before continuing, I believe you're here for a reason. You're willing to grow as a person, to develop yourself to become more present and conscious. For that reason, I recommend you to subscribe to our channel, as growth comes with continuity. Our channel provides many videos to help you with this path to enlightenment. The most important thing is to wait before trying to alleviate or meddle with these feelings. Compassionate attention entails just being with the pain and letting it exist without passing judgment or interfering, rather than grabbing for medicine or seeking rapid relief. We can let the pain go away on its own if we fight the want to fix it or dull it. Knowing the name of the emotion, fear, anger, sadness, etc., might help pinpoint its physical manifestations while we're feeling emotionally distressed. The ability to perceive and make sense of our bodily sensations is fundamental to our emotional intelligence. We can remain in the here and now with these emotions, free from the pressure to alter or resolve them, by practicing compassionate attention. We start to feel more grounded as we continue to do this procedure. At first, our heightened awareness of the experience could make the pain appear worse, but that's only the illusion. Nothing is becoming worse. What is happening is that we are experiencing it to its fullest for the first time. Restoring equilibrium and emotional awareness is facilitated by this unimpeded process of feeling. An initial tremor of pain results in a little impeded process of feeling. We can reawaken our capacity to handle emotions in a healthy manner by re-entering our emotional body and letting ourselves feel. On this path of self-awareness, we return to a state of completeness, free from the constraints of fear and judgment, and we are able to fully experience our emotions. The emphasis moves to honoring our innocence or inner sense at this stage. The capacity to establish a rapport with our emotional body via our emotions is intimately related to this intuitive sense. This path, sometimes called inner child work, is all about reawakening the caring aspect of ourselves. When we do inner child therapy, we aren't only concentrating on the kid, we are also reawakening the parent within. This loving energy can be brought forward through the child. We risk always looking outside of ourselves to satisfy our unfulfilled desires and needs if we don't learn to awaken our inner parent. This is common in partnerships. Instead of taking care of our own emotional needs, we may subconsciously seek for another person to do it for us. We may be drawn to someone who mirrors our dysfunctions when we get into a relationship with unfulfilled desires. This could be romanticized as a thrilling adventure, since we think we can fix the other person's problems and finally be happy. And yet, we fixate on making the other person change rather than tending to our own emotional needs. Seeking a spouse to satisfy our emotional needs is like putting a parent in a child. Because of this dynamic, we may develop harmful tendencies in our relationships, such as a lack of emotional connection and a subsequent decline in intimacy. As it's hard to keep a romantic attachment going when one partner is expected to take care of one's inner child, turning one's partner into a parent figure strains the sexual and emotional connection in relationships. And rather than taking responsibility for our own emotional well-being, we put our trust on others to do it. Ashley, how did your ability to fix the wounds caused by your childhood? Becoming one's own parent is the essence of heart work, also known as inner child labor. Becoming our own family is actually the main point. Certain aspects of our emotional anatomy are mirrored by the family archetypes. We need to take on each of those responsibilities fully if we wish to develop emotionally and mature as human beings. Exploring their workings raises the practical question: how can one be sure that they belong to the real you? There is always one person, or sometimes two, in every family who is considered the black sheep. This person acts as the family's change agent. They are the sole ones capable of bringing about lasting changes to the dysfunctional patterns inside the family, as love is not the glue that holds a family together. We reveal our dysfunction to those closest to us. It is the responsibility of the black sheep to become self-aware to the point where they can undergo personal transformation, entering heavenly alchemy. They go. My refusal to learn to be my own leader is a major contributor to the tension between my father and myself. The extent to which my mother and I disagree shows how much I am resistant to learning self-nurturing skills. When I fight with my sister, it's because I refuse to take responsibility for my own healing. When I fight with my brother, it's because I refuse to accept responsibility for my own mistakes and grow from them. I doubt Kat or any of us could be perfect as we are, and it frankly shouldn't be the standard for ourselves or anyone. I may question the imbalance in our connection when I seek solace from my mother. My mother is not here to take care of me. Rather, I must figure out how to take care of myself. We will have a strained relationship when I am an adult, since I refuse to do that. My mother will always be a reflection of that dysfunction. My mom will no longer be there for me when I figure out how to take care of myself honestly. After she becomes my buddy, our relationship will evolve beyond that of parent and child. Now is the time for you to explore your own worldview. If my emotional work, which starts with listening to my heart, is successful, then this will be a measure of that success. The emotional body expresses itself metaphorically rather than analytically or intellectually. Seeing the emotional body as a child will help you work with it more directly. Without the emotional body, the inner child cannot exist. Since the parent-child relationship serves as a model for a healthy connection with one's emotional body, we refer to it as the kid. The phrase defines it in serenity. Although our physical bodies may be the first to show signs of anger when someone wrongs us, it is actually our inner child experiencing these feelings. I am the child inside, and my reaction to my emotions dictates whether I let them pass or allow them to fester whenever I am unhappy. It is imperative that I figure out how to let my emotions guide my job. Nobody ever showed me how. Our family's history of childcare begins with my parents, who in turn followed in the footsteps of their parents, and continues indefinitely. It's a pattern that has been passed down through generations, usually with less consciousness as we move backwards, but with equal confidence as we move forward. It all starts with how I relate to my own heart. How am I going to deal with my fears? Am I going to offer an effort to halt it? Will I attempt to hide it, or find something else to do with my time? Will I just have to deal with it? Being present with my heart as it is right now is loving my innocence with compassion. The situation is identical when the timid youngster steps forward. I simply tell the youngster it's okay to be afraid, rather than trying to change their feelings. Finding the timid youngster in the water, I do my best to climb onto the bank of the river. You feel this way because whatever occurred to you scared you. In this, I shall stand by your side. In this approach, I am able to alleviate the child's anxiety and make them feel safe in my company. Once the child's fear subsides, they are free to resume playing. When I tell a youngster, "Don't be afraid," it forces them to act in a way that doesn't reflect how they really feel. Reactive actions follow. Being a good parent to one's own heart is essential, since our hearts, or the child within us, are the origin of all our experiences. It is modeled like ours. Our inner kid views us adults more as parents than as an inherent part of ourselves. It keeps tabs on how we act toward it and the outside world. Can they have faith in someone who claims, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you," when they repeatedly contradict themselves? Do they really expect that their hearts will listen to them if they are unable to assert themselves and pursue their desires? What someone truly thinks is the correct thing to do depends on how they act in every particular scenario, both toward other people and, more especially, toward themselves. Today, these same people are one of the most elusive forces on earth. If one does not practice self-compassion, their heart center, the site of causation, will exhibit experiences devoid of empathy and rife with interference. Just as a toddler learns by seeing their parents, an individual's heart serves as the dynamic hub of their experiences. For instance, would you rather let yourself rest or drive yourself while you're sick? A person's heart's conception of the kind of world it will express is shaped by the example set for it. We might ask ourselves how we felt when we were unhappy by closing our eyes and focusing on our breathing while remembering any negative emotions we could be experiencing. We learn where the feeling is physically located in the body when we give ourselves permission to feel it. By doing so, we are able to ground ourselves and access the domain of emotions. Always put yourself in the child's shoes. It's not your adult self that's feeling this way. If you want to connect with compassion in a simple way, try picturing yourself as a 5-year-old, whether you're scared, angry, or unhappy. This aspect of our being is more in tune with reality. Observing our 5-year-old self experiencing these feelings makes us wonder, what should we do in such situations? In what ways may we care for this aspect of our being? Every day, the love that enters our life is determined by our response choices. Taking charge of our own emotions and how we respond to them makes us less likely to bring chaos into the world. When we act dramatic, it's only a way to get the attention we don't have for ourselves. This pattern of behavior persists when we look to other people to fulfill our needs instead of addressing them on our own. In a nutshell, it's the act of attending to other people instead of addressing them on our own. Maintaining self-compassion is essential, but especially so when facing adversity. What kind of self-care do we need when we're exhausted or stressed out? How about we put love and kindness first, or self-driving? Mastering this level of self-care lessens our reliance on external affirmation. We stop going into relationships with unfulfilled desires or anxieties about the future, and as a result, we form healthier connections based on free will rather than need. We stop expecting other people to satisfy our emotional needs when we accept responsibility for them. Our relationships change as a result of this new way of thinking, which lets people be themselves without trying to change them. If we've ever felt let down by a relationship, it's usually because our expectations weren't met when we started. Taking care of yourself is our responsibility, not other people. Resistance and inauthenticity, which accumulate in the body and emotions, can be released by neutralizing negative emotional charges. When we fight against our inherent nature, we generate heat, which we commonly describe as negative emotions like sadness, rage, or fear. The charge can be progressively reduced by re-establishing authenticity and allowing ourselves to feel these feelings. We face down our fears because we perceive. In order to facilitate the release of this energy, we may incorporate warm water into the process at a later stage. In hindsight, we have laid a root of consciousness that links the bodily, psychological, and emotional selves. When we use metaphor, we can reach the emotional body in a manner that rational reason can't. By comparing God to an ocean and ourselves to mere droplets in that vast body of water, we can reach the emotional body without resorting to rational thought. By providing a straightforward yet profound means of connection and healing, the kid metaphor assists in the movement of energy within the emotional body. As we go along, we realize that every setback is really a plot and stop reacting to them with blame. Placing the blame on someone else weakens our own position. As a result of blaming others, we lose touch with the concept of cause and effect and fail to appreciate how we shape our own lives. By forging a different route, we can go from seeing the messenger to ignoring them to reacting compassionately. When we let ourselves be fully present with our kid selves, as we experience intense emotions like rage, grief, or terror, we may notice physical changes like heat or tears. As long as we give ourselves permission to be sad, there is relief behind it. Healing happens organically when we pursue this inner pathway to a more profound connection with our genuine self. The moment someone loses their temper, it's as if a door opens. With consistent use, this avenue paves the road to the emotional body, where one can initiate emotional cleaning. Going from the physical to the cerebral, and finally to the emotional, is the same route that the process takes as it travels through the emotional body. Each frequency needs to be reset as this trip develops from fear to rage to mourning. For instance, the physical domain is associated with fear. I feel safe in this body. If one works with this affirmation or presence activation statement, they will be able to identify the areas of their body where they do not feel safe. Fear is a factor that causes people to withdraw from their bodily experiences, particularly when they are young. A youngster who has experienced trauma and is feeling overwhelmed may say, "I don't want to be here," and then emotionally or mentally disengage because being in their body is too scary. When we're afraid, it's because we want to run away from our bodies and the here and now. Fundamentally, anxiety is a form of expressing the want to escape. I want any way out of this moment, any way out of this experience. When faced with events that are difficult to comprehend or integrate, the inherent tendency is to run away or avoidance takes over. Nonetheless, the goal of the practice is to assist individuals in taking an active role in their experiences by intentionally returning to the emotional body. When people realize they can identify the source of any negative emotion, they are better able to take steps to change it. Being physically present with someone helps to release emotional obstacles, which is the main component of the procedure. Antidote: these feelings don't have to come back once their message has been received. The process of turning common feelings into precious metals is like alchemy. A person doesn't have to mend their parent if, for instance, their connection with a parent is problematic. A personal metamorphosis occurs instead, as a result of processing the feelings prompted by the parent. Without saying a word, this can alter the dynamic of the relationship. It becomes clear throughout this process that the capacity to alter emotional disturbances is the source of genuine power. When you feel less anxious, you won't want to run away from the moment as much. Learning to relax in one's physical self, rather than one's cerebral sphere, becomes the new priority. We set up a space where emotional bodywork can flourish. Emotions are like an ocean, carried on the waves of water. Even though it may not be obvious at first, sitting in warm water causes an emotional shift. Emotions like dread, rage, or sadness could surface as a result of the water's temperature interacting with the body's temperature. Having this self-awareness allows one to restore emotional equilibrium. After a 20-minute period of reclining in warm water, the procedure continues with breathing exercises. The ease with which one is in one's emotional body is reflected in this connection with water. The fact that many cultures' members opt for showers over baths is interesting. The unwillingness to confront one's emotional body may be associated with this avoidance. Hot water is provided for individual sessions. Occasionally remaining in the water for as long as an hour, the individual establishes a connection between their breathing and the warmth. During this period, one's consciousness delves further into their emotional body, coming face to face with the intensity of stuck emotions. The warm water's constancy creates a secure space where the ego can't resist digesting emotions. This is where consciousness begins to digest itself, relishing the peace of such emotions. People might seem healthy on the outside as they deal with their deepest emotional problems if they avoid dealing with their emotions. Because of its identification with those unresolved emotions, the ego, which is linked to individuality and life events, may fight against dealing with long-standing problems. Even more so, the ego can seem to be helpful to others in order to cover up its avoidance. Nonetheless, the ego can overcome its own emotional barriers with the help of the warm water. A lot of people find that the heat of the water helps them let go of emotional strain. Even in the brief 20-minute baths, many report feeling a wave of heat wash over them as they let go of pent-up emotions. The water sessions provide a means of energetically releasing pent-up emotions. Since the conceptual part of the process gives way to emotional labor, the emphasis shifts to emotional purification, which could make some people feel confused. Emotion is the state of life in which a person receives more fully at life, thus feeling better accommodated as they move to substitution approach. At this point, the person has moved from rational to emotional thinking, and their confusion is a good indicator of that. Feeling and breaking down emotional barriers are becoming more important than using a rational method. Just like emptying a bathtub of old water, feelings like tears may emerge spontaneously. The important thing is to just let one's tears fall, rather than trying to figure out why they're coming out. This will help with emotional detoxification. Here, the analogy of a restroom works well. If one has been emotionally distant from their physical self for a long time, it's like walking into a neglected restroom full of stagnant water. Rather than focusing on the water's condition, it's more important to empty it and clean the area so that new emotional energy can enter. This is a continuing procedure. The goal is not to resolve emotional problems and then move on. Rather, it is to establish emotional maintenance as a regular practice. Again, stagnation sets up if the emotional body is neglected. The point is to keep the energy light and fresh by not letting more unresolved problems take up the emotional space. This never-ending task is like taking a shower or bath every day. It's a way to take care of yourself emotionally and keep yourself clean. To have a truly transformative experience, one must be fully present in their body, hold steady attention to the here and now, and keep their mind clear regarding their agency in creating their reality. The emotional and mental health of an individual must be attended to. To initiate this experience during the presence process, a navigational tool is utilized. This tool functions similarly to an orchestra and is viewed in the following chapters. It is essential that all of our senses be fine-tuned to the sensation of actual presence in order for us to make sense of the world. Dissonance is inevitable when an orchestra plays from a collection of disparate pieces of sheet music. Similarly, we need to train every element of our perception to focus on physical presence for it to be experienced. The ego may experience annoyance from the navigational instrument utilized for this reason. There are no obvious solutions, which can make using this tool frustrating. The test lasts for 7 days and consists of a series of questions that are administered twice daily, in the morning and the evening. If you keep asking the same questions because you think they don't have obvious answers or make sense, your ego may start to resist. Do not let this pushback deter you from moving forward with the procedure. Put your focus on your breathing, close your eyes, and ask yourself the questions pertaining to your bodily present. Even if you don't get answers right away, these questions will help shape your experience. Here are the questions. In what concrete ways does physical presence manifest itself for me? In my mind, what gestures represent actual presence? In my mind, what does physical presence seem like? Can you tell me where in my life I am currently feeling physically present without effort? At this very second, how irritated is my thoughts over these specific inquiries? In my mind, what does physical presence project over the course of my day? At this very second, how irritated is my thoughts over these specific inquiries? Even if the solutions don't pop into one's head right away, they will emerge from the experience itself. The unexpected ringing of a church bell, for instance, can induce an intense feeling of presence as one strolls across a parking lot. By directing one's attention to one's actual presence, this instrument enhances the experience. The presence activation statement, "I am responsible for my own peace of mind," could be offensive to someone who is still thinking of themselves as a victim. Anger and vengeance disrupt serenity. By viewing this piece of art as a quest for vengeance, we might gain a better grasp of the ways in which the world's messengers teach us lessons about ourselves. To achieve this goal of turning wrath into calm, one must learn to forgive, not treating others as enemies, but as symbols for source and guide. Many people mistakenly believe that forgiving others is a moral imperative, but self-awareness is the first step toward genuine forgiveness. Even if you feel obligated to forgive someone, you could still harbor anger toward them. Acquiring self-awareness is the first step toward forgiving others. Realize that when you act out of fear, rage, or grief, you're probably reacting to patterns and beliefs that you've internalized from your past. Such responses are more indicative of habitual unconscious behavior than of our actual selves. Note end. One must first become self-aware in order to forgive. Forgiveness is simpler to come by when one is aware of one's own history and the ways in which they have been shaped. The journey is a process, so it's crucial not to be too hard on oneself. Forgiveness flows freely to others once this realization is attained. Forgiving others isn't always easy, but it's especially tough when dealing with parents, because it's hard to see them through a childish lens. Like us, they had formative experiences in childhood, but unlike us, they lacked the resources for self-awareness that are readily available now. Some people find that closing their eyes, focusing on their breath, and seeing their parents as children helps them forgive. Since this viewpoint permits a more profound comprehension of their personal hardships, it can facilitate the process of forgiving them. Here, we go for mental clarity by asking ourselves a series of questions meant to illuminate our understanding of love and emotional connection. We might progressively feel a sense of relief and clarity by routinely practicing these questions. Emotions that surface and reveal deeper truths about ourselves might catch us off guard when we invite ourselves to approach life with joy and openness. Our conception of love is shaped by the things we encounter when we are young. Our understanding of love as adults is shaped by our experiences, particularly in our formative years. In the long run, this can cause us to unknowingly seek out relationships or circumstances that are similar to how we felt when we were kids. A child's conception of love could be shaped by their exposure to unpleasant or abusive interactions for the majority of their attention. When they're adults, they might try to find partners who continue this habit, even if it's unhealthy. For instance, a person who went through childhood abuse could find themselves attracted to partnerships that mirror their own experiences. Because it is what they are familiar with, they may find themselves drawn back into relationships where destructive behaviors are portrayed via love. They may have a rational desire for healthy love, but their emotional body still longs for the same kind of attention and connection it had as a kid. Romantic relationships aren't the only ones that exhibit this trend. It shows up whenever we look for someone to validate our feelings. Someone may unintentionally cause problems in their relationships if they have internalized the message that love entails suffering through difficult times. They may even rationalize their destructive actions, like continuing an abusive relationship, by equating their suffering with love, the emotional fingerprint they link with intimacy. A person's unconscious concept of love is influenced by their life experiences. Even when we don't realize it, this knowledge can keep us mired in destructive habits that limit our capacity for happiness and emotional liberation. Our closest relationships often serve as the best windows into this unconscious notion. The manner we approach or leave these relationships frequently shows the emotional patterns we're attempting to resolve. Our emotional patterns from childhood greatly influence our relationship exit strategies and how they develop over time. How we join a relationship is just as important as how we exit it or deal with problems that arise inside it. Insights into our unconscious conception of love can be most clearly shown in these instances. The first step toward liberation from these patterns and the development of a more genuine and satisfying relationship with love is awareness of their existence. Truly present, it must be reflected upon the work itself, both positive and negative. Our perception of love can change, from one based on dependency and dysfunction to one that is more balanced and self-sufficient, if we can become aware of these patterns and begin to recover. Consequently, we might begin by asking, what's the deal with the outcomes of my intimate relationships? The following inquiry can be, what emotions do I have now? Reason being, that unconscious concept of love revolves around the emotional fingerprint that lies beneath. One example is how we tend to talk about how our partner always leaves us, even if it could be that we end the relationship or that they do. Then, what emotions do we have? If we wait for the answer, we might end up feeling abandoned. Please tell me how we can tell our loved ones about this. Do you recall the previous example when we traced the pattern? Our father walked away on our mother during a fight when we were still in the womb. Alone, she felt. Perhaps we interpreted their subsequent divorce as a sign of abandonment. Therefore, we might check out how our family feels about this. However, if we examine our siblings' relationships through the lens of emotional body awareness, observing not the physical details of their breakups but the impact on their emotions, we can observe the same pattern. Within our family, we adhere to an unspoken code for love. This is our family's guiding principle. We can then pose a question. Sometimes we have to go through the steps again before we finally understand the answer to this issue. What is the polar opposite of my subconscious conception of love? That is the question. Abandonment will appear in all our experiences if we discover that it is our unconscious concept of love and if we consistently display it. Our companions will forsake us. Soon, our boss will leave us. No matter where we look, we will find signs of desertion. Anywhere we go in this world, if we're seeking to feel anything, we'll bring that experience into manifestation. Now that we know that our unconscious mind defines love as abandoning, we can start to think about what love is not. We don't place a high value on it, so it won't come to us right away. Because it won't exist in our minds, reaching it can be difficult. The identity of it remains a mystery. Everything we've ever wanted will finally come crashing down when that day arrives. We've been waiting for it our whole lives. Without realizing it, we've been looking for that unspoken notion of love in everything. Let's pretend we finally get it. Commitment is the polar opposite of our subconscious conception of love. Nobody in our lives, not even our boss, has ever asked us to commit to anything. Instead, our surroundings are filled with love and compassion. And when our lives are clogged with chaos, nobody in our lives has ever asked us to commit to anything, not even ourselves, not even our relationships, not even anyone at work. Thus, nobody on this planet returned our commitment. All there is to the world is constant desertion. Here, 3 tiers of consciousness are at work: the rational, the level of projection; the affective, the level of awareness; and the physical, the level of reflection. Looking back, it appears like those folks over there are constantly chit-chatting. Do you see how they disparage each other? All day long they gossip. They do nothing but gossip about everyone else. Incredibly, it is. Then, we begin to come to, and we see that we are, in fact, talking trash about them. We find that we are engaging in the same kind of negative self-talk about them that irritated us. We go to the next level when we become conscious of our emotional bodies. Upon reflection, we come to the realization that our inner monologue is filled with self-pitying remarks. "Oh, you've blown it again. You're useless. Can't you ever get that right?" is something we say all the time. Things get worse when we realize we're being cruel to ourselves. Our emotional well-being is negatively impacted. We do it to other people in our minds. Our senses tell us that this is happening all around us. It's the same route to self-awareness that we've been on. It has just dawned on us that our unconscious mind uses the concept of abandonment to define love, while commitment is its polar opposite. The force of commitment can restore harmony to a person's life. The first step, to do it casually, on an emotional level, restores this balance. Putting it another way, a sincere desire to make things right requires a dedication to one's heart. No matter the cost, one must make a solemn vow to one's inner child and to themselves. You can't just declare, "Okay, I'm committed, done." You have to learn how to commit to this relationship. Keep in mind that we've never been trained to commit, and we've never respected this process. However, all it takes to open it is to set the intent to commit. By remaining in the question and asking, "How do I commit?" the universe provides an answer. Caring for, directing, and trusting one's own direction is the first step in learning to dedicate oneself recreating harmony in one's life, and healing oneself are essential components. Being mindful of and dedicated to the lessons that need to be learnt is an integral part of this process. When one commits sincerely to themselves, it will inevitably start to radiate forth. If you commit to what's important to you, it will naturally flow into your relationships, your children, and your co-workers. So, the world mirrors this back to you, proving your dedication. The realization hits you at this point. This world is not about getting anything. Many people devote their lives to the pursuit of love, yet true love can only be bestowed. It cannot be obtained. Love, like oxygen, cannot be extracted from the ocean below, since it does not exist there. People seek other things: power, celebrity, possessions. When they are frustrated that they cannot achieve love, they show there, but they don't bring anything with them. Remember that a hearse isn't equipped with a roof rack. This should serve as a warning that obtaining is not life's ultimate goal. It seems like the world is taking more and more of what you want, the more you strive to achieve, and the more you feel like you don't have enough. But when you decide to commit to yourself in response rather than reaction, things change. Having the fortitude to commit to other people is a byproduct of having committed to oneself, goal-free. You can't contribute from a place of lack. Forgiveness is really about giving to oneself first. The ability to love oneself without conditions is a byproduct of having learned to forgive oneself. Being able to love others becomes a reality when you have it. When you love other people, the world will start to love you back. Finally, all that has been desired has been granted. How one treats their own heart determines how the world treats them. One must love themselves before they can love others. There is no such thing as a free lunch. The act of doing so breathes life into one's own soul. Giving oneself love is like breathing oxygen from a vast submerged ocean. All of a sudden, you can breathe easier, and things start to clear up. When given room to move, happiness blossoms on its own accord. A sense of equilibrium can be achieved by deciphering and incorporating the unconscious concept of love. It is critical to be absolutely generous with oneself. A self-dedicated life does not include predetermined goals or conditions. No set schedule or intended outcomes can motivate it. True commitment comes from a place of self-love and cannot be predicated on anything else. Since one evolves via the heart center, via feeling and emotional awareness, this love is identical to evolution. Life happens without planning, with no foresight into the future, more sense of peace, solitude, and vigor. Nobody is here to show you how to love no matter what. Unconditional love is impossible for parents to offer if they are unable to receive it. They are not supposed to be doing that. Love one another no matter what. It's everyone's responsibility. To love another person with all one's heart, one must first learn to love himself without conditions. Whether in relative comfort or sympathetic action, becomes the basis for both supportive care and responsible friendships in action. This love, which knows no bounds, settles into the core of one's being and then spreads outward. Everything in the universe shifts when one alters their connection with themselves. Herein is alchemy's power. Efforts to save the earth are meaningless if people rush out to join the cause, but can't even sit down with their loved ones at home. Activism is often a way out for those who are struggling with their own issues. The genuine way is to rescue oneself first. That energy starts to flow outward and solidifies the second one achieves personal freedom. Defining. Upon reaching the causal point of one's experience, one can undergo genuine transformation. The most dramatic shifts are possible here. Words like appreciation have two sides. To appreciate is to be thankful, but it also denotes to become more self-aware, as a stock's value increasing with time. Practicing self-appreciation is like tending a garden. It grows your consciousness, which in turn enhances your awareness of the world around you. A person's authentic self is frequently met with rejection the moment they step foot in this world. They are the only ones who can accept themselves. Unease develops if society fails to mirror that acceptance. When one feels unloved, they look for love elsewhere. Doing something to gain the desired love puts one in a condition of doing everything to be accepted. When you're an adult, you might think that fulfilling your life's purpose is essential to your happiness. If I just find out what I'm supposed to do in this world, I'll be happy and at peace. However, find your purpose is about more than just doing things. Being is the essence of purpose. It is a way of being that everyone can achieve at any time. Accessing the state of being is possible in any situation, whether one is functioning as a garbage collector or an accountant. Realizing that our actual community does not emerge from man-made gatherings is a basic step in achieving this state of being. Everyday interactions with others, from the barista brewing our coffee to the cashier processing our purchases, have the power to awaken us to our true selves. The most important thing is not to organize a group to accomplish something, but to interact with others in an honest and genuine way. An chasm separates every person. The world is contained in that space. Our experience is defined by how we interact with that space. This chasm is the epicenter of everything. Interactions with other people are where the world really is. Our lives are shaped by the things we focus on within that space. I can't help but focus on either the thing directly in front of me or the things in the gap. Typically, I'll move away from the source if it's on the gap stuff. As my focus increases on the contents of the space, I find that they remain objective. This is completely apolitical. By the way, I specify its purpose according to my intentions. Either I can write hate mail with this pen, or I can write love poetry with this pen. I may draw nearer to someone or further away from them with the stroke of a pen. It is I who determines the item's purposes. The Hayspeed page, section 4. There is always a way to either widen or narrow the gap in life. Funny thing is, this chasm is the same between us as it is between anyone else, between God and you, and between any two of us. Keep in mind that the sun's rays, our presence within, are our true identity. What unites us is the presence that resides within. Looking at other people makes me realize that I am actually staring at myself, not with in-focus, but with invisibility. Because of it, it is a hall of reflections. So, why am I doing this? Do I want to widen the gap or narrow it? At the grocery shop, should I pay more attention to the items themselves, to whether or not I have enough food for dinner, or to the prices? On the other hand, am I paying attention to the cashier, who I want to thank for helping me, and inquire about their day? I am removing myself from the person right in front of me if I focus on the things around me. There is just one presence, so it's the same one staring back at me every time. What am I doing with this stuff, and am I paying more attention to its presence or its contents? This is the question we face in all aspects of our lives. For me, the answer is already present and present. The universe has a tendency to shrink the distance. Love is self-seeking and self-reliant. It will back any cause that serves its purpose. I might spend my life attempting to define myself via material possessions, amassing vast amounts of them, and exerting tremendous effort to amass even more of them. The cosmos just cannot accommodate it. Thus, I should expect to feel a growing distance from the presence as I engage in this. Fear and reactionary hoarding are unsustainable, and love cannot sustain fear. Though it may permit dread, it will not impede it. All of my possessions exist just to help me be more present with the people in my life. if I make the conscious decision to use them to bridge the gap and become closer to them. This may occur, for instance, while on the job. Working is merely a pretext for me to show up and engage with the people in my life. There is nothing more to it than that. When I decide to do that, my goal is to become nearer to God and eliminate any obstacles in my way. Now that I'm not going to be using the items for myself, the universe will conspire to make it happen. In the end, it's just a tool that allows me to exist in this world and connect with other people. The cosmos will ensure that I never lack the resources I require, and I will discover this to be true. My feelings of inadequacy will fade, instead, filled with peace. Realizing my one true desire is to become nearer to God sometimes lead to serendipitous encounters where I feel His presence, even in the most ordinary of settings, like when the checkout clerk says something that really hits home. These are heavenly snoozes, and I really shouldn't go home and brag about them. If we are overly open about these times, it can mean that we haven't felt complete oneness yet. We should treasure and hold dear these moments when they occur. They are priceless treasures, and our gratitude will increase their value. The methods we employ to gauge our emotional well-being are straightforward. Being who we are in the here and now, in relation to the people around us, is more important than our actions. Our purpose isn't to do, it's to be, as we'll see when we go on this journey. Experiencing life to the fullest is our purpose here. The deep spiritual aspect of life becomes apparent when we are able to be completely present without seeking to flee. We can still feel the need to react while we begin this process. However, our awareness of these reactions will grow, and our responses will change as we gain more presence. At first, we might respond before we even realize it. With practice, we may tune into our immediate reactions and even anticipate them. Over time, we'll develop the ability to respond in a way that doesn't convey negative emotions. Where there are no longer frequent messengers setting us up is where we want to end up. This realm is real, and it's a subterranean existence, unrelated to messengers. The messengers are continuously pointing out our absence, and as we address their revelations, more of us will eventually make it here. There are moments when the breath slows down on its own, when you're practicing breathing exercises. I have no problem with that. Maintaining awareness of one's breathing is crucial. The goal of this breathing exercise is to help us become more attuned to the here and now, by releasing any attachment to the past or future that may be holding us back. When we maintain a regular breathing pattern, we raise our energetic frequency and rest. We shouldn't worry if our minds begin to race. Doing so is completely unnecessary. This has nothing to do with managing one's thinking. We can explore various breathing techniques as we immerse ourselves in this approach. As long as our breath stays connected, we are working, subconsciously or not. That's the golden rule. We can get really sleepy, or perhaps pass out as we go on. But that's normal. Feeling exhausted is a precursor to an integrating experience. It portends the integration of something very unconscious. During these times, it's common to feel like stopping breathing or wanting to go to sleep, as if the body is trying to distance itself from something that has been covered up for a long period of time. To stay awake and continue if you're feeling sleepy, exhausted, or otherwise unresponsive, try breathing more rapidly. The fatigue will fade away, and a heightened state of consciousness will take over after some time. This occurs when a portion of one's being that has been attending to a specific problem has finally integrated it, freeing up the energy that was previously directed towards that problem. Many people do this procedure in their heads when they undertake it for the first time. Emotional processing starts when the physical procedure of breathing is completed. The experience begins with mental understanding, nevertheless. since the mind tends to dominate one's state of being. The significance of breathing isn't fully appreciated until the procedure is over. It might be in retrospect that the benefits of taking 15-minute breathers twice a day are truly realized. Gaining emotional body awareness is necessary for this process to take place, since it operates at the causal point of experience. If you know what to look for, you can notice the impacts. It is recommended to take a 3-week rest after finishing the breathing technique, but to keep breathing twice a day. Because of this, the process is able to settle. Deep, long-term transformation, rather than quick solutions or dramatic flourishes, is the goal of this procedure. Like taming an overgrown landscape, it takes time and effort. To make space for new growth, one must first remove the weeds, identify the pathways, and prepare the beds. Still, weeds will sprout up once we let go of our responsibilities and choose unconsciousness once more. The key to this process is being self-aware and responsible for your emotional well-being. Like a bird, you must have the self-control to fly through the sky, bringing with you everything that matters to you. Returning to the process after a break is possible. Restarting from the beginning is unnecessary. Once you've gained experience, your grasp of the content will expand when you revisit it. Going back with this experience allows for a better understanding of the content and why it is there. Real comprehension of the process's profundity necessitates emotional experience rather than only intellectual comprehension. Because the content speaks to one at their level of experience, the process might feel completely new with each repetition. Because their experience grows, those who have done the process several times say it's as if they are reading it for the first time. As an example, one's initial perception of some teachings or concepts, like the virgin birth, can vary based on their level of consciousness. Physical, mental, and finally emotional acceptance of these notions may occur in stages. Some ideas' original intents become more apparent as one's emotional intelligence grows. Instead of focusing on dramatics, the emotional body allows energy to flow more freely. Here is where change really takes place. The emotional body is the engine that drives transformation, and the result is seen in everything around us. This shift is deeper and more long-lasting than any mental or bodily shift you might experience. As a multifaceted medium for the transmission of energy, the human body has both a rational and an emotional core. Making light work of it by exploiting it for dramatic or intellectual pursuits is like misusing a powerful instrument. Authentic transformation happens when there is a change in the emotional body, and this change causes the environment around us to alter for the better. What we have here is still a mystery to us. As a group, they are attempting to construct a rocket that will transport them to the farthest galaxy in search of the time machine. At last, here it is. We're committed. We simply haven't mastered its usage just yet. But we can't put it to use unless it reaches the necessary strength. We need to dive into it first. We've been and hopefully we may win with enough time. We have yet to prove that success either. At the moment, we rely on the additional support of the rocket until we reach the time machine. At last, here it is. We're committed. We simply haven't mastered its usage just yet. But we can't put it to use unless it reaches the necessary strength. We need the time machine. This is the problem. Most of us are like the car owner who never turns their ride on, but loves to show it off to everyone, sleep in it at night, and stands next to it all the time. We give the car a good polish and marvel at its beauty, but we never turn the key to start the engine. The first time we intentionally tune into our breathing is when we go for a run. To activate the device, the breath is necessary. After that, we'll discover that when we work through our feelings of sadness, rage, and terror, it's not actually those things. That was the name we gave it. To move within, all we need is energy, and there are many forms of energy at our disposal. Right now, we need to focus on keeping the vehicle, because if we do, we won't be able to go on the ride. We must keep in mind that the mirrors we see are not actual if we allow ourselves to become engrossed in our own drama and begin to believe them. The projections in which we participate are genuine and will have substantial and tangible effects. We will definitely lose our physical vehicle and be unable to continue the game if we engage in warfare with our messenger or attempt to eliminate them from the planet. No, we can't be in the cars zipping around the track. We can only sit in the grandstands and watch the most epic event that has ever taken place. As a metaphor, that's the place we aspire to be. Taking care of ourselves and whatever is brewing in our hearts is our responsibility if we want to create genuine, non-forced peace in the world. Authentic peace, regardless of our location, without the need to enforce it. It is entirely up to us to handle that. Additionally, our physical vehicle will remain undamaged after we reach that state of tranquility. We will be prepared when the time comes for us to understand this in relation to our automobile, all in one. By training ourselves, we will be prepared when the time comes for us to understand this in relation to our automobile. It's already done. However, there is a way, a rite of passage, and it all revolves on our personal struggles. Just go with the flow. Feeling is reality. This emotion will guide us to be authentic. Getting down to brass tacks is right now all we want to do. I mean, really, I don't care what it takes. This isn't going to be our intended course of action. What matters is not our opinion. It will emerge from a source that is unknown to us. We will become stuck fast if we embark on this road with the mindset that we know it will be easy. Studying from books might be risky, since we tend to think that books have all the information we need. Literally little is taught in textbooks. Everything is just data. You risk going insane and living in a wholly illusionary paradigm if you absorb too much information without putting it into practice. The moment I declare, I know, I shut off all possibility of learning anything new. Look inside. You can't learn what's right without us anymore. Look inside and tell me how many of these things you think you've learned. Learning new things will force me to face my ignorance, and conversely, being too comfortable with my current level of knowledge will prevent me from expanding my horizons. End quote. Our knowledge is the foundation around which we build every experience, even when we are not consciously aware of it. But we need to be ready to be mistaken about it at all times. We get nowhere if we insist on being right. That is the risk of helping other people in this world. Setting ourselves up as facilitators of others could lead us to believe we know more than we actually do, even while our true intentions are to be helpful and serving. However, we become trapped at that point. A disruption in the emotional body can emerge physically in the form of illness, injury, or accidents. There is drama in every illness, injury, and accident. In other words, they are external means of achieving goals and attracting our attention, but we are blind to and unable to comprehend their true nature. We will keep looking outside ourselves until we develop emotional body awareness, which is based on perceiving the world via our feelings rather than our physical senses. The physical senses can only reveal the fleeting. Until we develop the ability to perceive internally, we will continue to project our inner struggles onto the world around us. The events that shape us must be external to us if we are to learn from them. However, this will diminish the instant we give ourselves permission to get understanding via emotion. We will not extend our projections, even if it does. This will not be used for dramatic purposes. Dharma is the way we shall approach it. Illness, pain, and other unpleasant experiences are not about the event itself. Figuring out if we are responding or reacting is crucial. Is it a matter of drama or dharma for us? Each of those situations presents a chance to tend to our hearts on a more profound level. if we are truly embarking on a path to do so. For as long as we don't grow up and learn to love and care for ourselves, we can utilize this same occurrence to draw attention to ourselves and lead ourselves into an even more inauthentic experience. Gratitude in a temporal framework is a kind of comparative gratitude. Every time we escape an uncomfortable situation and reach a position of comfort, we are filled with gratitude. By contrast, this is appreciation. Seeking happiness is the same. Seeking happiness just leads to further misery, as it diverts our attention from the present moment. Just because other people are going hungry doesn't mean I shouldn't be grateful for what I have. Thankfulness. We cease trying to escape our feelings when we face them head-on and feel them to the fullest. We learn to be content in the here and now rather than always looking for joy elsewhere. In that instant, we will have the deepest spiritual experience possible. We are so thankful to have found that out. All the things that have led us here, and all the things that are happening right now, fill us with gratitude. Appreciation is a more accurate description. Once we grasp the intricate web of events that has led us to this point, we can't help but feel grateful for everything. And that was all handed down. We expected something in return, but all we've ever gotten is the knowledge that it was all free. Being fully present in the here and now allows it to expand, deepen, and gain depth. You won't be able to make it work. There's promise here. Since it is an emotion that emerges effortlessly, gratitude is not something that can be planned or determined. Rather, it is an internal quality. Thankfulness comes naturally to those who are grateful. No one needs to tell them. Medications may operate your drama like an autopilot, but nowhere in reality will one align with your viewpoint. When will it be possible for someone to drop the pilot and just keep going? Keep in mind that mental and physical functions are complementary. Every object serves a purpose. To put it simply, there is a time and a place for medications. The problem starts when they are given the wrong location. That there is no either/or circumstance is the central tenet of the integrative journey. Someone who seeks profoundly might take on several roles, that of a follower, a lover, and a father, among others. But one cannot be a true follower and yet neglect their family. Doing so breeds insincerity, discord, and isolation. The and place is what we mean when we talk about integration. It is possible to be a parent, a lover, and a follower. Significant life changes occur when a person reaches this and place. Just recently, someone brought up the topic of DNA and how very little of it is actually utilized. The remainder is commonly referred to by scientists as junk DNA or useless. Actually, DNA isn't just about one thing, it's about everything. Because it encompasses all aspects, the reversed form of DNA is and. Anyone suffering from a mental, emotional, or physical illness can remain in a and place. It is possible to take medicine while also addressing the underlying causes of severe depression, such as when a person loses the ability to recall their own name when they are not taking medication. The equilibrium will be restored if they remain in the and position. Once they find their sweet spot, they'll know the medicine is too powerful, so they can taper off the dosage with the support of an attentive caretaker. If someone has relied on crutches for an extended period, it is crucial to avoid suddenly stopping their use, as this could lead to a collapse. Appreciate the path. This phase has been reached by those who have been on medication for an extended period of time. How can they proceed from this point onwards? The most important thing is to take more ownership of one's experience. Taking on greater responsibility makes one more self-sufficient and less reliant on external factors. But one shouldn't be hasty to discard anything. Doing so can make things worse. Think of what's happening right now as building on everything that has come before. Time is of the essence. Reacting severely, like erasing any references to the past, is reactive, but responding responsibly and being responsive are crucial. Accountability, steadiness, and empathy are the pillars upon which the heart center rests. You can't do without these three attributes. Learning how one's own life mirrors broader, macrocosmic patterns is another part of this path, particularly as it pertains to issues of religion and fundamentalism. Everybody deals with their own unique brand of interpersonal, familial, communal, and cultural drama. Aside from our thoughts and prayers, it's totally amazing how many people can summon the same calming effect. For instance, if one's religious beliefs are divisive, the only way to find harmony is to look within. No change can take place anywhere else. When miserable people seek happiness, good and evil emerge. Their own heartache is the source of their misery. Fleeing from this pain, they seek solace in something else, something similar to a trance condition. Because of this, while awake people have visions, dreamers aim for the stars. Take the American dream and the quest for happiness as an example. The very definition of pursuit is to rush after something. In this case, the pursuer is escaping from their own feelings of despair, rage, and fear. In the word, it means from the very definition to focus on something else. In the word, love. Trying to escape a problem won't solve it. It follows its master wherever they go. Finding themselves pursued by something, the answer is to run in the opposite direction. If you're someone who takes their problems internally and projects them outward, you could label other people negatively or think they're on the dark side. However, the only way to change that is to face your own inner turmoil and feel what's really going on there. There is a natural diminishment of interest in exterior dramas after change has taken place. One may get the impression that the news is a never-ending tragedy of doom and gloom. The media may highlight the death toll from avian flu, for instance, but that figure is insignificant when compared to the entire global population of 8 billion. The power of fear can be easily channeled and utilized. Peace can only radiate from the actual world, which is the one standing before us in this very room. Leadership, passion, and the fight for peace. Some people could be led to believe that, if they only go out of their homes and accomplish something, the world will become a more peaceful place. But inner calmness is the source of all genuine peace. The ability to change one's life lies inside, as one discovers through introspection. Everything that happens after the heart has already occurred is an effect of the heart. There is a common misunderstanding that excitement is synonymous with fear. What do you do for fun? People may inquire, as if they are in desperate need of entertainment to cope with their terrible lives. But the source of genuine joy is within. It's not about trying to find entertainment. Rather, it's about savoring each moment as it passes. Anxiety and nervousness are occasionally entangled with excitement. Anxious persons may be hiding behind their enthusiasm for an upcoming occasion. This difference must be remembered. Maintaining awareness and consciousness is key when doing meditation or breathing exercises, which can occasionally lead to a state of transcendence. Persistent practice of meditation may unleash the potential of the mind mindfully and help us to increase our best selves. Realization, rather than flight, is the goal of meditation. If you're going to meditate, don't do it to numb yourself. Instead, focus on becoming more self-aware and expanding your awareness of the present moment. Our past is marked by a period of intense physical activity that lasted for a very long time and can be compared to the caveman era. During this time, the main concern was preparing the physical body so that consciousness might remain within it. The next, far less extensive than the initial bodily experience, was a cerebral one. the height of which occurred within the last century. Compared to the mental one, the emotional one we're going through right now will be quite shorter, concentrating primarily on a few preferred physical conditions. The last century is reminiscent. I promise it will be brief. It appears that the travel through the emotional body is significantly faster than all the mental effort we've been doing, although this understanding could be totally wrong. Unconsciously, we will go through the stages of dread, wrath, and sadness. Here we may see the emotional body's awareness pathway in action. This shift will play out before our eyes as people go through it subconsciously. It will manifest as terror, fury, and loss if we do not actively engage with it. When we let ourselves be responsible for the experience, though, it transforms into an inward journey that facilitates greater self-awareness movement within the emotional body. The vibratory sensation, which lies at the very edge of the emotional body, is beyond our current comprehension. We were completely unprepared for the mental and emotional aspects of the experience before we dove in. Emotional work is best understood when we go into it with our own experiences. It turns out to be more substantial and genuine than we had anticipated. There is a global event taking place. Because no one is addressing the heat in their emotional bodies, it is radiating outward and making the globe hotter than it already is. It has begun to unfold and will keep unfolding. By giving ourselves a better understanding of what's going on, we can reduce our anxiety levels through the inner work. It will occur regardless of whether we are aware of it or not. A conscious experience differs in that it will not involve drama and will allow us to go through it unfazed by dread. Rather, we shall reply with affection. Forget about the sentimental stuff we learn about in school. Love is just a synonym for progress. Put simply, we will seize every opportunity to awaken to a greater and greater extent. That is the essence of love. We are loving ourselves when we give ourselves permission to grow and change by embracing new experiences and taking care of ourselves in ways that promote this process. We love ourselves when we do that. We are able to love others more readily when we model this behavior for ourselves. Being unloving to ourselves is interfering with our own well-being, which in turn affects our relationships with those around us. Nothing good comes out of being afraid. Staying in fear and letting it control us serves no purpose. We shouldn't let it control us or influence our actions, but we should push through it, triumph over it, and gain insight from it. Making a decision based on fear will not help us in any significant way. For that reason, it is useless to keep up with the news. TV is neutral, so the question of its goodness or evil is moot. Whatever we choose to watch on TV matters, even if it's a profound film. Except when we're looking for a good chuckle, we have to watch what we eat. The uncomfortable seems to find us, but that's not the point. We are conditioned to seek comfort when we are already uncomfortable, and that is exactly what we are doing. We wouldn't look for solace if we were already at ease. Realizing and accepting ourselves as we truly are is more important than consciously facing our fears. The uneasy is already here, no matter where we go. The trick is to be present in the moment, even when it's uncomfortable, and not to run away from it. Joy does not refer to a particular emotion or sensation. Happiness is more of a connection with our emotional self than a passing feeling. A common misunderstanding is that seeking pleasure is the same as experiencing joy. In fact, the former is motivated by a need to avoid the latter. Happiness is something we seek out when we're sad, and we cling tenaciously to the times when we feel good. But we are aware that they are temporary. In times of distraction, we sometimes allow certain feelings to seep. Happiness is a state in which all of a person's needs are met. We tend to buy goods, build mansions, or pursue status as a means to achieve happiness in our pursuit of it. Happiness, however, is fleeting, and we are aware that we will require more in the long run. As long as we keep looking for ways to make other people happy, we will never be satisfied. Happiness is unique. True happiness originates within, not from outside sources. We can only bestow it upon ourselves. It is a byproduct of the unseen and unparticipated work that takes on within. We can learn to fully embrace the here and now when we quit trying to find happiness and start being honest with ourselves about what we really want. We experience joy at that very instant. When you're joyful, you let yourself feel either. Now, to fully immerse oneself in the present moment, one must be open to and accepting of whatever emotions may arise. Another kind of fuel is joy. Like jet fuel, it's an impersonal force that powers our lives. It's not something that can be achieved or sought after by meditating. Grace is bliss. It is immaterial and unexplainable by logic because it originates outside the domain of cause and consequence. Because of this blessing, we are able to go beyond mundane levels of consciousness. Bliss cannot be experienced until joy is first experienced. When we experience bliss, our vibrational awareness rises, and we enter a realm of existence that represents beyond explanation. While we do remain physically present in this world, the fuel we use lets us enter a condition where we are unencumbered by it. Grace activates our best potential, and bliss is a gift of that grace. It is not something we can work for or force. Rather, it is bestowed to us at the appointed time. A state of effortless functioning is achieved when we enter a blissful state of being. A more profound understanding of the miraculous aspect of existence is emerging at this point in time. Getting into that state of mind is no easy feat. Being responsible is necessary, because having faith to move mountains also means being conscious that the mountains are where they should be and that we shouldn't mess with them. An important consideration is the desire to form a bond with the mysterious. Being mindful of the here and now is crucial on this path. In order to be here, one must give their undivided attention, do whatever it takes to get people to stop acting without thinking. The goal is to establish a true connection with the unknown, with a higher power that some may refer to as God. The connection between you two should be tangible, not theoretical, and experienced in the here and now. A peace, however small, must be genuine. Even if we don't yet know much about this connection, we are moving forward with purpose. Solomon. The main instruments are focus and purpose. A person's attention is directed by their intention and guided by their mental body. Preventing the mind-body from taking over requires that we be very clear about our aims without making them into inflexible plans. Everything in life works toward achieving a goal once we set our sights on it, whether we realize it or not. The difficulty arises from the fact that our inquiries are frequently unconscious, yet life is constantly reacting to the questions we pose. Let a kid, whose worldview is heavily influenced by their formative experiences, take the lead, and we can find our dreams dashed. In this case, however, we refuse to permit further questions in this arena, and we realize the world is not a losing fight. We need to stop blaming outside forces and start embracing the inner kid we all possess. To do this, we must be role models and provide an intentional, caring, and unwavering starting point for our lives' events. It is imperative that we find something concrete and proceed. Building a connection with the unknown is a challenging path, since it entails searching for the limitless. Infinity, eternity, and the idea of everlasting are difficult concepts for the mind to process. The mind is more concerned with the period at the end of a phrase than with the statement's underlying meanings. However, the voyage will never end if God is limitless. Let us take our time. We have no plans to go somewhere soon. Everything that takes place occurs in this very second. No matter where we go, the only place anything can happen is right now. Right here is the only way to go. Something else important is the idea of nowhere as well. The only thing that matters is whether we follow our hearts. Since, as one wise teacher put it, we begin from nowhere and reach nowhere. The doorway to a more profound comprehension is unlocked by this route. The environment and one's connections, including those with one's family, will undergo transformations as a result of emotional body therapy. Setting a good example in terms of the presence process is crucial. Nothing you can do on the outside will have any effect on other people, but if you live it, they will feel it too. Without fail, the best route will be selected mechanically. Instead of just hearing words of wisdom, children will learn by seeing how others act. The youth of today are becoming more self-aware and influential. Inevitably, they will destroy antiquated infrastructure. First and foremost, we must attend to our own hearts before attempting to alter theirs. Any child in this world would benefit much from this example. Take personal responsibility to transform the experience. Being conscious of our motivations can help us avoid attempting to force people to change. Making a deliberate decision, like bringing awareness to one's breath, sends a signal of intent to those around us, which can have an effect on how they behave. Being responsible is of the utmost importance. It entails being compassionate toward other people, as well as attending to our own emotional work. Be compassionate and cast away fear and self-awareness as we're moving forward, tending to relaxing altogether and enjoying the moment. Accepting personal responsibility entails being mindful of the need to carefully navigate our own feelings of anger, fear, and grief. It entails showing kindness and compassion to everyone you meet, particularly in social situations. Without undergoing the necessary emotional work, it might be irresponsible to try to convert others to our beliefs. Instead than trying to solve someone else's problems, real healing comes from living in the now and seeing the analogies in people's experiences. A miracle is not an occurrence in which physical principles are disregarded, but rather the emergence of significant insights from the present moment. We have a better understanding of these true miracles as we delve further into our personal emotional therapy and enhancing our personal therapy with supplemental medication. The value of such an experience is like no other. A miracle is not an occurrence in which physical principles are disregarded, but rather a miracle in which physical principles are disregarded, but rather a standard for moral standards and matters. Antidepressants often conveniently provide drugs. Do what you need to do to become well. Our own emotions and emotional labors are our own duty. Then and only then will we be able to show others how to transform by being fully present for them. When a person is in a relationship, the quality of their overall world experience is reflected in how they are with their own heart. Everyone is hoping for that kind of relationship. One should not confuse intentions with plans. When you set an intention, you are engaging with consequence and leaving the outcome up to chance. Attempting to exert control over one's environment in order to bring about a desired result is at the heart of any plan. Plans effectively block all communication with the cosmos. Making yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, and even hourly objectives is one way to structure a 5-year strategy. This method depends on control instead of letting divine flow, which eliminates any possibility for magic or flexibility and increases the risk of disappointment. An example of a plan would be coming prepared with a list of questions and practicing the responses ahead of time. Neither spontaneity nor the participation of others is permitted. There is full control over the procedure. On the other hand, an intention might change with time. Embracing ambiguity and remaining open to any possible outcome is key. The goal may not be to prescribe a specific course of action, but rather to raise awareness of the issue and incorporate lessons learned. God and the cosmos decide the how. Odd. The how is God. It's important to concentrate on the intention, the what, and then allow the rest to happen naturally. People often ask this question when they're experiencing difficulties, such as, how can I earn more money? How can I pay my rent? Or how can I get a car? The answer is straightforward. Prayer. As opposed to intentions, which center on cause and effect, plans look at the end result. Avoid losing sight of the causal place in favor of worrying about the consequences. The results of an action are as transparent as its cause. One might try this method to strengthen their faith. Have faith that beyond our material world exists a spiritual realm that, when given permission, collaborates closely with us. This isn't an intrusive presence. Rather, it waits to be acknowledged. Our reactions are what make things work. It doesn't get in the way. If you want to know what to say and how the meeting should go in the event of a disagreement, for instance, it's best to have a strategy. Keeping the situation under control is the main objective. But the point of having an intention is to be flexible and accept whatever comes out of it. Never lose sight of the big picture. Instead, concentrate on how you'd like to feel once the problem is fixed. You may enter a situation without exerting control if you imagine yourself feeling a certain way and let that image drive your preparations. Because of this receptivity, the cosmos may perform its magic and direct the connection for the best. Any circumstance can be addressed using this strategy. While on a long flight, for instance, you can't change the weather or the airplane's course, but you can decide how you want to feel when you get off. A more tranquil and pleasurable experience is possible after you set that intention and let go of control. The power of purpose over control is reinforced when one lets go of trying to control every detail. It's possible to be pleasantly surprised by the events that develop organically. More satisfying and genuine experiences are the result of collaborating with the universe via intention, rather than controlling it through plans. In conclusion, the level of control you desire over your life is the defining characteristic of the distinction between making plans and setting intentions. If you want to achieve certain goals and have complete control over every step of the process, making a plan is like attempting to micromanage the universe. Nevertheless, goals? They stress the importance of going with the flow and allowing events play out according to plan. It's as if you set the tone for your day, and then the universe follows suit. Think about the emotion you want to feel, instead of trying to plan everything out over the next 5 years. Looking for a way to find calm amid confusing times? Envision yourself leaving it with a sense of peace. The cosmos, it will support you. Avoid trying to push it. Trust the process, and watch what occurs when you release control of the details. Staying open to the outcome is more important than trying to control every single detail. When you're confronted with a problem in the future, keep in mind this. Instead of worrying about the how, ask yourself, how do I want to feel? The cosmos will enlighten you more clearly than any map ever could. And you never know what happens when you trust and release control. Subscribing to this channel will help you stay in the now, which is essential if you are on a journey of self-discovery. If you understood this message and plan to keep evolving in the future, please respond with the word "now" in the comments area. Also, consider hitting that like button or forwarding this video to someone who could use a friendly reminder to take it easy and pay attention.